Families are the core to our society. Families are complex, families are messy, families are diverse, but families bring a lot to one another's lives. When we think about families, we need to not only think about the individual members that make up the family, the moms, the dads, individuals with disabilities, but also the siblings and the grandparents and all the extended individuals that love that person with a disability. So when we start thinking about families, we need to start thinking not only about what they are doing to support that person with a disability. We need to be thinking about the culture. We need to be thinking about the values, the expectation, the environments they live in, and all of the things that they bring to the table. When we start thinking about developmental disability services, we often think about the 25% that are receiving the services from the long-term service systems. But in reality, we need to be thinking about the 75% that are receiving those supports from family members, whether it's in their own home or they're being supported in the community. The family has been and will continue to be the backbone of our long-term service systems and supports. But as we also know, there are a lot of pressures that are happening across the nation. There's an increased demand for services. There is a decreased amount of money to really support the services that people need. But we also know that aging baby boomers are going to require a level of support as well. We also know that our service systems have been evolving. What started as an institutional service system that removed the individual from the home is now recognizing the significant role and importance of having people with developmental disabilities live with their families in their communities. So if we think about the service system, when it was set up, we spent a lot of time really focusing on everything it could provide, from transportation to recreation to medical supports. And when you start thinking about that, you really start thinking about that, wrapping that person 100% around the supports that we have available. But what we unintentionally did when we did that is we cut that individual off from their family and from their community. And now we're really recognizing that with the change in the new federal rules, with the change in our expectations, there's a recognition that we need to create a whole new long-term service system that supports people where they live with relationships with their families. And we need to recognize this has to be for the 100%. We need to be thinking about all families, all of the families of the 4.9 million people with developmental disabilities. To do this, though, we must be thinking about the practices and the policies and transform them at every single level. We kind of talk about this concepts of integrating supports, but really helping families to recognize, starting at a very early age, that they problem solve on a daily basis in everything that they do. So how to help families accommodate and integrate and adapt and problem solve and move around an array of supports that aren't only dependent on paid public services, but thinking about how they could build their child's own assets and strengths, thinking about how they can help them develop relationships that have meaning in their life and that can offer them support as they grow older. Thinking about how you're using technology. Technology is a part of our everyday life. And why is it always an afterthought when we think about people with developmental disabilities? We also need to be utilizing the same community resources that everybody else is doing. And we also need those public resources to help fill in when people need that extra level of support. But we have to teach people how to do this. This doesn't always come naturally, and it's not just natural just because you have a child with a developmental disability. So there are realities to having a family member. The realities are emotional, they're social, they're physical, and how do we really help those families not only meet their own needs, their family unit needs, but also the needs of the individual with a disability? We know that we can do this by offering information and training and education. We know it's important to connect individuals to one another and to peer support and to really talk to someone with that lived experience. But we also know that there's a reality of goods and services that would really help that family in that role of either caregiving or providing support, whether it's respite or home modification or cash subsidies. All of these practices are vital to supporting that family unit that is so integral to our long-term service system. So how can we do this? How can we change things? We need to set a goal that not only increases and enhances the lives of the individual with a developmental disability, but enhances the lives of the members of the family as well. so that the family as a whole can help one another have the lives that they want for themselves and for those around them. For me, it's really important. I have a brother with a developmental disability, and it's our entire family unit that wants a good family of life. It's not just about my brother, but about every single one of us and how we're working together in our complexity and our messiness to really kind of create the life that all of us really want. And so at times it's hard, and at times it's beautiful and wonderful, but that's family, that's life. When I think about families and I'm thinking about enhancing policies and practices, I don't want people just to help us survive in our storms, but to really help us get out in the rain and dance and enjoy the life that we deserve.